Lifting up our hearts to heaven, let us imitate the high key of the angels.
All right, excellent. So, probably should have prepped this first. If any of you have witnessed the icon that I have sitting up here this Sunday, it came from my icon corner in my home. And it's a very dear icon to me. It was made for me by a good friend of mine named Michael for the occasion of my ordination. And specifically, it is an icon of the Good Shepherd, which is more or less what we're going to be talking about today. And so on the back, he had written, "I made you this icon as a reminder of your new responsibility, in hopes that it gives you peace and strength when things get tough." This is the reminder of the Good Shepherd. I could have brought in a card that I received in my ordination, which was a very goofy-looking sheep. And somebody had written, "Well, why did I give you a sheep card?" And he's like, "Because you're now the flock, or the shepherd of the flock." I felt like the icon was a little bit of a better fit. But in recognition of this, in thinking about the Good Shepherd, I wanted to bring up something else entirely. And that is a recent study that was done. So these always interest me. As somebody who went to school for communication, half of that is understanding how we all talk to one another, how we all receive messages, and how we all act. Half of it is mostly psychology. So there was a study recently done because a Yale student recognized that at two stores not a mile apart near her, people were acting in two very different ways. So one of them was a Walmart, the other one was a Meijer. Both of them you go to get groceries from. However, Meijer did not have a law set in place in their stores that you must wear a mask to enter. It was strictly voluntary. But 90% of the people there were wearing a mask. However, in Walmart, who has made it mandatory throughout the entire country that you must wear a mask upon entering their stores, only 20% of people were wearing one. And why? It's because, and I've said this in a previous sermon, we are hardwired for certain things. Now, in my previous sermon, we are hardwired for worship. We want to worship something, and we can very easily make that not God. But in the same way, we are also hardwired to follow. We are meant to be sheep. In the many ways that Christ had addressed himself by saying, "I am," and they are literally referred to as the great I ams of Christ, two of them are about this very thing. One in which he says, "I am the good shepherd," and the other one in which he says, "I am the door of the sheepfold." Both of them specifically relating to the fact that we are meant to follow him. We are meant to be his flock. So we take this understanding, this premise, that there is no way we're going to escape being sheep. You can't do it. Now you can be a leader among other people, but you will eventually follow something. And that's okay. Now you'll hear it said in society all the time that never be a sheep. Don't be a sheep. It's terrible. Don't be a mindless sheep. And I furthermore challenge that by saying, don't be a mindless sheep, be a mindful one. You're meant to follow something, but we can do that in a smart way. We can make sure that we choose the right shepherd. We can make sure that what we are aiming our life towards is that which is highest and best, which is whatever the Lord teaches us. The lessons that we are meant to receive from him. It is also from his own mouth that he used the example of sheep multiple times. How many of you, if one sheep went astray, would not go out and find it and bring it back? And more or less, what he is called to do for all of us, I am here for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. We are the new Israel, and any of us who go astray, he is there for us. He is there to find us. The reason that this study interested me so much is because it shows something that is fundamental to who we are. Why did somebody decide when they were coming to Walmart to only wear their mask and they were like 1 out of 100? Why did most people not? Why do we tend to just make those leaps of doing whatever else it is that other people are doing? And the sheer fact is that your mind is relying upon that. we constantly look for shortcuts in activity. So when we see other people doing something, our brain has to think less if we just follow. It's a mental shortcut. So when you see a bunch of other people going around choosing to do one thing, you just kind of go along because your brain has to work less hard to follow than to think about. And this is something that we are called to fight against in Christianity. If we were all to just blindly follow and let our brains choose whatever we want, we'd quickly descend into chaos, and more or less we'd be reading about America as if it was Sodom and Gomorrah. That's all they did. It's just whatever felt okay, and whatever your neighbors are doing, just keep on going and doing the same thing. And if you need examples of how bad they were, read the Old Testament. But if we are mindful about what we do, if we remind ourselves that there is a shepherd out there calling our names personally and leading us to something greater, then we can choose to follow what he has told us. We can follow the sound of his voice and we can go in the right direction. But if we choose to only stay with our vision and not look beyond the groups that we surround ourselves with, we are only ever going to do something that might not be what we are called to do as Christians. More or less, one of the things to remember is that it is the greatest misconception of our age that freedom is in choosing whatever you want to do and do it, rather than following Christ. You'll hear many people say, well, I don't want the church telling me what to do because I like choosing for myself. I want to be free. And in fact, true freedom is in understanding what we are called and meant to do under Christ and enacting that. And doing exactly what we are meant to do. This is true freedom. This is the freedom that has been prepared for us. And in fact, when you start just following along blindly with whatever other people are doing, or if you just choose whatever it is you want to do, you are enslaving yourself. You are less free than you ever think you will be. If you just follow what somebody else thinks is right, you're a slave to them. You follow their choice, not yours. If you follow whatever feels best, you are a slave to sin. You're not free. And this is something to remember. That as we are surrounded by a society that will constantly press upon us, that there is a shepherd that we can choose to follow. He will always follow us no matter how far we stray, but he will never forcibly pick us up and bring us back to the pasture we're meant to be. This is the good shepherd. We have to choose to follow him. And when we do, we will realize that in his pastures is true freedom. In his pastures is the right way of living. And in his pastures is our salvation. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Glory be to Jesus Christ.
Glory be forever.